If you've been walking into rooms lately and feeling like the physical environments around you are fundamentally changing, well, you are exactly right. Welcome to this explainer, where we're diving deep into the 2027 interior design forecasts from global trend authorities to see exactly how our spaces are rapidly evolving. Today, we're going to decode the massive aesthetic and psychological shifts that are actively reshaping the places where we live, where we work, and where we heal. So, let's jump right into this shift. We are definitively moving away from that cold, sterile minimalism and digital noise that has dominated the last decade. Instead, we're pivoting hard toward a really deep, intrinsic human desire for emotional comfort and tactile reality. The design world is calling this overarching theme interconnectedness. And honestly, it's a fascinating reaction to the relentless, exhausting pace of our hyper-connected digital lives. Because we spend so much time online, we are actively seeking physical spaces that offer the exact opposite: serious grounding, warmth, and a genuine sense of touch. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the era of interconnectedness, explore the 2027 color palette, and then look at how this applies to the grounded sanctuary and structured ease and wellness. Starting off with Section 1, the era of interconnectedness, and how we're finding balance in our spaces. After years of relentless technological change and, let's be real, spaces that frankly felt like they were designed for screens rather than actual humans, interconnectedness is emerging as the ultimate design imperative. It is a shift driven by this intense craving for psychological balance and emotional comfort in our everyday environments. Global trend authorities, heavy hitters like WGSN, Coloro, and RAL, are literally all pointing to this exact same conclusion. We're designing for emotional comfort and tactile reality now. The aesthetics are finally catching up to our basic human needs. What's absolutely wild here is how these global authorities are fundamentally redefining pigment itself. Color is no longer being treated as just a decorative layer. It's now viewed as a primary architectural tool. Designers are literally using it to dictate the mood, the function, and believe it or not, even the acoustic feel of a space. It's no longer just an afterthought or a quick coat of paint to finish a room. Color is now considered highly structural to how a human being actually experiences that room. Moving right along to Section 2, the 2027 color palette, focusing on anchoring hues and electric accents. Okay, so the decades-old dominance of those cool grays and washed-out neutrals, yeah, that is officially over. They're making way for rich, nature-infused anchoring palettes. Leading the charge is WGSN's defining color for 2027, luminous blue. This is a stunning, electric, sapphire-adjacent hue. It brilliantly bridges ancient pigment traditions. Think of historical lapis lazuli and pulls them straight into the future. It's an incredibly confident color, specifically designed to completely change a room's center of gravity without tipping the space into darkness. It acts as an anchor, but a remarkably vibrant one. Alongside that brilliant blue, we've got our new greens. You can go ahead and say goodbye to that loud, acidic chartreuse from recent years. The 2027 palette brings us highly restorative Meadowland and Spanish greens. And what I absolutely love about these mid to deep greens is their brilliant dual function. They naturally calm your nervous system while simultaneously priming your brain for mental alertness. They're just so versatile, grounding the space while keeping it feeling completely alive. Let's look at how these hues build our new base. As those cool grays finally step aside, earth tones like clay and terracotta pot are stepping up as our new foundational neutrals. And just to be clear, these are not your flat, boring 90s browns. They have subtle, rich pink or terracotta undertones that physically warm up a room. They ground the space, and crucially, they pair beautifully with the natural materials that are totally dominating this interconnectedness trend. Of course, spaces are always going to need some visual relief, but pure white is now being seen as way too harsh, too clinical, or just plain blinding. So, to provide that necessary visual spaciousness without the starkness, designers are turning to tactile neutrals. Shades like soft sky blue, pepper white, and olive gray are completely taking over. They give your eyes a comfortable place to rest while maintaining that essential element of warmth and approachability. And hey, for a spark of pure joy, the recent dopamine decor trend is maturing into something way more luxurious. We are now seeing sophisticated brights, colors like energy orange, marzipan pink, and topaz yellow, deployed as highly deliberate electric accents. They inject immediate optimism and creativity into a room, but because of how they're used, they don't overwhelm that newly grounded foundation we just talked about. Let's dive into Section 3, the grounded sanctuary, exploring the 2027 residential trends. When we look at homes, the overarching move is away from those overly staged, impossibly perfect aesthetics, leaning instead towards spaces that feel intimately lived in. The secret weapon here is a concept called statement anchoring, which leans heavily on the classic 60-30-10 color rule. Instead of painting an entire room in a really loud color, designers are using deep hues architecturally. Imagine it like a recipe. 60% of your room is wrapped in quiet, earth-toned walls. 30% is dedicated to natural textures like warm flooring and wood. And then you hit it with a heavy 10% focal point, like a massive sofa upholstered in that electric luminous blue. It anchors the entire space perfectly. And that recipe brilliantly illustrates our next core concept, material authenticity. By utilizing those low chroma earth tones and tactile neutrals on the walls, you're literally allowing natural materials to breathe and take center stage. You can definitely expect to see a huge rise in elements like textured plaster walls in warm off-whites or pale clays, paired effortlessly with natural linen fabrics and gorgeous warm oak furniture. In 2027, the texture itself becomes the absolute star of the show. Now, to keep these earthy spaces from feeling, a bit too serious or heavy, residential design is embracing what trend forecasters are calling empowered play. Everyday household objects are getting a really joyful upgrade. We are finally, thankfully, replacing those rigid, ultra-modern silhouettes. You know the ones, right? Those chairs that look like modern art but completely wreck your back. Those are out. In their place, we're seeing quirky, characterful furniture pieces and highly sculptural lighting. These playful design features bring a tremendous sense of nostalgic warmth and personality right back into the home. Wrapping things up with Section 4, Structured Ease and Wellness, the 2027 Commercial Trends. There is a really striking contrast in how designers are approaching public spaces versus private ones right now. While residential homes are focusing deeply on intimacy and nostalgic warmth, commercial design in 2027 has to strategically balance some pretty complex functional needs with serious stress reduction, human sensuality, and zoned activation. It's all about using these new colors and textures to actively manage the collective mood of the public. A perfect example of this is happening right in the modern workplace. Offices are utilizing a concept called structured ease to basically combat the sheer cognitive overload of the modern workday. Instead of harsh white fluorescent lighting and distracting busy patterns, they are aggressively adopting matte textures, clean tones, and subtle gradations to create visual order. Colors like Spanish green and olive gray are emerging as top choices for large continuous surfaces and wall paneling because they manage to feel incredibly professional yet mentally vitalizing. This approach gets even more fascinating in wellness spaces. Imagine walking into a clinic that actually lowers your heart rate just by being inside it. In our current era of constant digital noise and low-level anxiety, clinics, spas, and wellness brands are heavily deploying soft sky blue. They use the specific tactile neutral to instantly signal safety, purity, and trust. It fundamentally gives your brain room to breathe the second you walk through the door. On the flip side, businesses still need energy, right? And they achieve this through something called zoned activation. So rather than scattering bright colors randomly everywhere, commercial spaces are deploying high-contrast, vibrant hues, like topaz yellow or spicy red from our sophisticated brides palette, exclusively in meeting areas or collaborative hubs. It acts as a psychological trigger to spark communication and dynamic energy exactly where it's needed, while intentionally keeping the deep focus, independent work areas pleasantly muted. Finally, the hospitality industry is moving definitively away from those cookie-cutter, copy-and-paste corporate styles. Hotels and restaurants are fully embracing what's known as a cultural weave. This means a beautiful fusion of global heritage and material contrasts, leaning heavily into those new earthy pigments and textile-inspired textures to tell a highly authentic, localized story. It ensures that the space actually feels uniquely tied to its specific geography and culture, rather than just feeling like it could be anywhere in the world. As we wrap up this explainer, the big takeaway is undeniably clear. We are officially living in the era of interconnectedness. Color and texture are no longer just passive decorations. They are incredibly powerful architectural tools, capable of shaping our focus, promoting our wellness, and grounding our minds. So the next time you walk into a room, I want you to ask yourself, is this space just housing me, or is it actually healing me? And more importantly, how are you going to use these 2027 forecasts to transform your own spaces?